Aloha mai kako, and welcome to Asia Pacific Dance Festival's Moving Forward series, a conversation with festival participants from years past. We will be hosting a different participant each month through October, and we hope to see you back for all of our broadcasts. Sponsors for this series include the Hawaii State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Friends of the Asia Pacific Dance Festival. Now I would like to introduce this evening's host, Michael Pili Pang. Michael is Kumu Hula of Halau Hula Kanoeʻao. His Halau was a resident artistic group in the 2019 Asia Pacific Dance Festival. Aloha, Michael.
Aloha, Eric. Thank you for letting me be a part of this exciting event. And, I'm even more excited because I get to discuss this artistic endeavors with Maelia Loebenstein, Carter, and fabulous artist, fabulous choreographer, Miss Aloha Hula, you name it. Recently, she's been a judge at Mary Monarch, so I'm really excited to be here with her. Just all our excitement to be a part of this event is really wonderful. I was there in 2019, and Maelia was there in 2017. And so, Maelia, tell us about your experience with the Asia Pacific Dance Festival.
Aloha, everyone, and mahalo for having me back. I feel so excited to be an alumni and to be a part of this prestigious event. What I liked about the festival was that it encouraged me as a kumu to stay rooted in my tradition and yet be a little exploratory and creative in what I presented, and to also encourage my haumana to have my students to have input. And, normally in a halau or a hula school hierarchy, the teacher does not care what the students think and what their input is. And so it was a really collaborative effort. And I felt that it gave us the opportunity to represent my grandmother and my family and the traditions that we come from, but to also kind of see how we can keep that tradition moving forward into the future without making it not look like hula. So it was fun.
I think that's the whole idea of the Asia Pacific Dance Festival, was trying to give opportunities for artists to come together and share. During your time, I can't really recall the other two artists that performed with you.
We had Tonga and the South Koreans, and they were just amazing. And my students were so enamored with them, and to be exposed, as dancers, sometimes, especially here in Hawaii, because we're in hula, we only see hula. And to appreciate all the different dance forms and to interact with the representatives from each contingency was a really great opportunity for them.
And how was the experience with you teaching these with the Tongans or the Korean people join you in classes?
They did, yes. And it was challenging because everybody is a dancer, and so dancers, we don't have to worry about rhythm, we don't have to worry about passion, but definitely technique is different, and there was some language barriers. But I think what's so beautiful is that dance transcends all of that. And so the way we teach culturally, right, is watch first and then watch what my hands do, what my body does. Don't ask questions, just watch and then do what I do. And so with a language barrier, what's so beautiful about dancers is that is exactly what happened. And so it was so much easier because as a kumu, I was like, how am I going to do this? These are not my students. How much can I push? How mean can I get? How much discipline can I enforce? So all of those things come into play, but they were so respectful. They were so eager to learn. And then just the regular the dance students that were participating, to see everybody come together and interact. It was just a really great experience.
Great. I found that sometimes when we're teaching it, we test our own selves, on how much can I communicate as a teacher, dancer. But did you find that you were looking at your approach was a little different sometimes than like the Korean modern dances or their traditional form, when you're approaching a dance?
Yes, it was. Because I think for me, my students know me. They know all my idiosyncrasies. They know my facial expressions. They know when I breathe a certain way, what is happening. And so to be able to now to help others learn and learn me as well, if that makes sense, because I watched how like especially the Koreans, right, they were so fun loving, like they were so disciplined, but they didn't have to tell their students. I never saw them give a whole lot of direction. It was like everybody knew what they needed to do. And I find that that's the same way that we are as po'e hula, as hula practitioners, is like our haumana know a certain way, and by example of what the kumu sets, the dancers then have their direction, and then everything else falls into place. And so that was a really beautiful thing, because I watched them and I was just like, oh, see, they teach the same way that I do. And so it all works. I'm like, they just stand, they look, they have a certain stance and a certain approach, and the dancers just know what they're supposed to do. And so it really was an awesome experience. And then when we got to do the collaborative finale, that just, I was told, just let it happen organically. And I'm like, what does that mean? Because as a kumu, it's like, we know in our hula protocol, what is our opening, what is our closing. We know how it's all going to happen. And to see us all just come together and come together on that finale, like through the power of sound and through the power of rhythm, and what our traditional beats and sounds and instruments were, and how they all kind of have a similarity, and how we brought that all together, and all of our dancers were able to dance together without any practice. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool too. When we did ours, we were doing the show, the final show, I didn't realize that they were watching us the whole time.
Right.
The groups. And so when they got on stage, they could do exactly what we were doing, because they had basic movements from the class I taught. So it was very interesting. It was great experience in this Asia Pacific Dance Festival.
Yeah.
What I would love to do now is, maybe what we should do is continue look at some of the videos, to describe what you've done, some clips from the performance of 2017 and your participation.
Sure.
Wow. Wow, Maelia, that was fabulous.
Thank you, Malo.
I'm so sorry. We should have. I should have asked you to talk a little bit about it so people had some idea of what they were doing on this fabulous opening. So why don't you tell us about this Kamaliʻi O Ka Pō?
Okay, so Kamaliʻi O Ka Pō is a modern chant that was written in an ancient mana'o or thought. And the composer, Kauaikapu Kalani Hewitt, he did it as a lesson. He always, when he composes mele or chant, it's for his descendants, his mo'okuauhau, for them to remember where they come from. And I think for everyone, if what makes hula so special is that we are the living, breathing, moving words of our kupuna. Yeah, is that hula is the form of bringing our the words of our kupuna to life. And so in Kamaliʻi O Ka Pō, it's the child of night and the child of day, Kamaliʻi O Keao. And why I gave this particular mele in the showcase, or why I showcased it, a lot of my students were very young. They were just finishing high school, going off into college. And hula pahu is something that I reserve for the more the older dancers, the more seasoned dancers, and because of the balance that they need. And so what this mele does is that it chronicles our people from the time of Wakea and Papa, of Sky Father and Earth Mother, to the creation of Haloa, who is our elder sibling, which is the Kalo. And it's a great mele to teach them their mo'okuauhau, their genealogy of where we come from. And a lot of it was because when I decide to teach a mele or a song to students, it's because there's a lesson to be learned. And what I found for so many of them is that they kept looking or kept thinking into the future of where they're going, where they're going, where they're going. They have no idea where they come from. And if they are not rooted and they're not balanced in their life, then you're never going to find yourself moving forward in a good direction, because you're not solid and you're not pa'a in your foundation. So this mele basically chronicles our a lot of our olelo no eau, our words of wisdom that our kupuna teach us, right? Are you the po'o or are you the hi'u? Are you the head or are you the tail? Or you're in the center. So it's kind of like knowing where your past, your present, your future is, but you have to know who you are and where you come from. And so bringing that all together in a hula pahu, which, you know, of course is our most sacred form of dance, or, you know, my students say, oh, we're learning the serious dance today. But before I gave them anything that was too big for them, I wanted them to start with something that was a little modern yet not, that they could understand, that they could comprehend, and then root themselves, and then show me that they're balanced before I let them go any further. So that was the whole premise. So that's why when you notice they're very aiha'a, they're the hela, which is a very traditional step. And I always tell them it may look simple, but by the time you're done with this mele, your legs are going to be jello. But it's that whole thing about grounding ourselves and centering ourselves. So knowing that there's always going to be dark and light. There's always going to be good and evil. There's always going to be what's above, what's below. Those are all just basic principles that we as Po'e Hawaiʻi and as Po'e Hula believe in, and trying to get this young, modern generation to understand that. It was taught to them through dance.
You know, I think that's what some people don't understand, that, you know, as Kumu hulas, we not only teach dance, but, you know, we see these kids grow up. Right. You know, we raise these children, you know, it's not like second grade where they're done in second grade and they leave.
No.
You know, they stay here for 15, 20, 30 years with us.
Some of them are my grandmother's students.
Yes, I'm on. Oh, see, yeah. I'm on children already. You know, so
right.
But I love the idea that you bring that to the table for the children, and you bring this thought that you have that you're sharing with us on this particular dance. You know, it's fabulous to know that what we see visually is beautiful on stage, but what is being enriched in the child and the dancer is way beyond the stage. You know, so mahalo for all of that. You know, I think what I'd like to see is the next clipping, because we went from very traditional your hula pahu into now we're going to do a hula awana. So, you know, I you know, if you want to set up our hula awana for us, what we're going to see in this next clip. I think it's Kaimuki Hula.
Are we doing the mele Koʻolaumoku? Oh, Kaimuki Hula. Okay.
Yeah, Kaimuki Hula.
So Kaimuki Hula. Okay, so I'm a Kaimuki girl, born and raised, and this is, you know, I always loved this song growing up, and it wasn't until I was older and in college that my grandmother actually let me dance it, because that's another thing in hula that people don't understand. Just because there's a song that's written doesn't mean it's meant for a hula. And two, not everybody is supposed to dance every mele, because some of it, there's lots of kauna, you know, there's the hidden veiled poetry that, you know, they might be talking about one thing, but they're really talking about something else, you know, and it was when the children went to sleep that those stories were revealed. And so in this mele, I didn't learn it until I was much older. I was in college, because it alludes to a love affair. And there's a repetitive line in there that says, Hua nakamakanie, is that the wind blows through, right? But what it really is alluding to is that there was some juicy tidbits going on in Kaimuki, and there was this little love affair going on. And these were all of the little chirping birds, gossipers that were blowing with the wind as the news was traveling, what we call the coconut wireless. And so what's very interesting is that for this mele, it's my older ladies. Like, my younger girls were not allowed to do this. And I'm trusting that everybody here is adult, but my grandmother always used to say, unless I know you have ike, you have that knowledge, you don't get to learn that song. And so when I look at my girls, some of them that performed in that first mele were just, I think I had 6 that were graduating from college, high school that year and going off to college. And so I was like, yeah, no, even though you might be old enough, you haven't lived enough to dance this song. So it was my older girls that were dancing it. So what they tried to do, and I did give them a little bit of license and freedom in this mele, was that they tried to move as the wind. They tried to simulate the movement through their choreography. And so, it talks about, it's a very modern mele. It talks about the ringing of the phone and the little juicy tidbits that come when the phone, those little party lines used to be going on back in the day. And so it really is a fun song. It's a fun love song.
Let's watch this. Kaimuki Hula.
Thank you. Thank
That
you.
was very, very nice.
Yeah, and it always helps. You can always tell, like, when a dancer, especially a hula dancer, is having fun with a mele when they understand the different layers. And so I try to always tell my students, like, kauna is like an onion. You have the outside and you just peel off layer by layer. But as you get to the center, the final part, that's the sweetest part, right? And so you can understand, because that's the beauty about hula. When I watch dancers, everybody that's doing it has their own pilina, their own connection to the mele. So I shouldn't see robot or exact same expression per se, because everybody has their own nuance, their own experiences in life, and their own relationships that they can relate to that particular song. So I always love watching dancers as they present hula, because then I can be like, okay, I can see where you are in life's journey. So I shouldn't, my grandmother used to always say the 13-year-old should not look exactly like the 26-year-old, should not look like the 38-year-old, should not look like the 40 or the 50. Everybody brings their own emotion and experience to the hula. And so unlike other dances where everybody is in sync, expression wise, for hula, the expression is from the na'o, is from the center, right? And it's based on what you understand. So
correct.
I love that.
I just love that too, the way you're expressing it and telling us. I remember being in hula where, as you might would say, kids, go sit outside on the porch. And then she would close the door and they would discuss what was going on in the kauna of the mele. And you hear the ladies laughing and laughing. And we always wondered what was going on there.
Right. And it wasn't your time to know.
No, it wasn't our time to. Right, exactly. Now, is that particular dance your choreography or grandma's?
That was a combination of both of ours. So I had learned it from her, but it was just, she's like, here, just do this. And so when I had to translate it into a group, because we did it for Mary Monarch, I had to clean it up, because what I could do as a soloist was a little different than in translating it to a whole bunch of dancers. So it was taking both of ours. And so, there was a lot of nuances that were hers that I was like, no, they have to stay here because that's our tradition.
Well, one thing I love about your choreography, and I'm watching it, is it is descriptive. It tells you what the mele is. Sometimes today I get confused as, what is that motion telling me? But the emotions are not just I like to call it deceptive simplicity. It's simple, but we know how hard it is for us to get the dancers to do that kind of work. And that's really great. Really, really great. You have a third clip coming up, and that's your mele Koʻolaumoku. You want to tell us about that one?
Okay, so this is where I was talking about, like, looking to the future and pushing a little bit of an envelope here. This chant was written by Keali'i Raichel, and he wrote it for the opening of the Aulani Resort here on Oahu. And the description of a ho'ala means to awaken. And so it is a chant that calls on the different moku, or the different land divisions of the island of Oahu. And the repetitive line, again, the eala means literally to wake up, but not necessarily from a slumber. And this mele, again, going with the Kamaliʻi O Ka Pō, was part of a greater lesson that I felt my students needed to learn. One, they needed to learn balance, but two, they needed to wake up. They needed to know what their purpose was. And so when we in hula, when we kahea, when we call out the names, this was calling out each moku, the ali'i, the winds, the rains, and making the whole island come together, right? It's that even though we have our individual areas, and this is like us in humanity, it's that we are all individuals, but we have one resonating call. And looking at what we've just gone through this past year, it resonates even more, because it was a call for unification, to wake up, to take care of your land, and that you have to be awake inside to be balanced, to know where you're going. And if you don't understand that the land you're living on is living and breathing, these are the same rocks, the same woods, the same winds and rains that have been here for centuries, and for centuries of our ancestors, they are here, a part of this living, breathing earth. If you don't recognize them, if you don't acknowledge them and respect them, you will go nowhere. And that was part of the greater lesson. So in this hula, I gave them license. I'm like, what do you want to say? And one thing that made me happy as a kumu was that they listened. Because my grandmother used to always say, I tell them, the power of sound is the greatest thing in the universe. When you emit a sound, make sure it has a positive vibration, not to add negativity into this world. And so they wanted to incorporate that. So they started with the ipu, which of course in hula with the pahu is our foundation. Without the pahu and the ipu, we have nothing. You know, awana is so far down the road, but that steady beat that centers us as dancers that we hear, that kahela beat, they wanted to incorporate that. And then the la'au, because we are our kumu. We are branches of our kumu. That is the saying, the olelo no e'el, right? Is that the branches are reflections and they are strong because of their kumu, because of their tree. So they incorporated the kala'au into it. And then the ili ili, which were the smooth pebbles, because we are like in the mele ai pohaku, that we are children, we only need our stones, our rocks, that without our land, we are nothing. And so it was them that came up with that mana'o and put it all together. And I was like, okay, for a ho'ike and for something like this, I'll allow it. It will never leave Kennedy Theater. It was like, you know, I'm like, if your kumu were watching it, she would probably have given me a phone call and been like, Maelia, you know, because normally, right, when we do implements, it's one at a time. It's not all together. But what they were trying to do was to try to unify and raise the kahea, to raise the call to awareness through the power of sound using traditional hula implements. So for that, I allowed it. And so really when it says I was the choreographer, it was really my students that did it. And I gave it my thumbs up for just that performance.
Well, let's take a look at this. Yeah.
Okay.
Mele Koʻolaumoku.
Okai aha mauleo e ala e o kona I ke kai o kale uawe e ala e o Koʻolaumoku I ka lai o mololani e ala e o Koʻolauloa I ka malu alua ki iwai e ala
I remember seeing that night and thinking to myself, the rhythms that you used in it was very interesting. And I had the same thought also, kala'aos, ipu, ili ili, and how all of that made a call and response. I thought it was very cool.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it was cool then, but I also understand, that as hula practitioners, we also know where the lines are. And so I thought that it was a great message and a great way of looking forward. And knowing time and place is really important, I think, in hula. And so for us, it was the backstory and the learning experience for them that I really appreciated this mele. And certainly now in this time in especially in that kahea hope, in that last call where they said e o oahu o ka kuhi hewa, in remembering where we are and the ali'i of this aina and how important everything is on Oahu as this gathering place, and it all goes back to way back then in Kukani.
Right.
Great lessons for them.
Yeah, I also think that year the theme was ho'ala, to arise, to awaken.
Right. Yeah.
So playing with that theme was really interesting. And I have a question. Now, would you consider that hula kahiko or hula awana?
Oh gosh, definitely not. It would be such an awana. I wouldn't even classify that as a kahiko. And that's why I was like, oh my gosh, if this gets out, it's like I need everybody to realize that it was being creative.
But this is what the Asia Pacific Dance Festival was all about. Bringing you together so that you can experiment and you can test your boundaries.
Right.
And that's part of what it is to be at a university, to play with the labs and and when you do something like that, you actually come back to your roots even stronger.
Yes, even stronger. So it was really nice to kind of float away for a little bit, but to know what the purpose was.
Right. So recently you've been doing some new works and things like that. So, let's get an opportunity to see some of your more recent work. That's from 2 years ago.
Okay.
So you want to introduce what you're going to be sharing with you this next piece that, again, I guess Frank Hewitt also did this one?
Yes, he did. So this, I believe, is the Ike Kupuna that we did. And so what I try to do, especially in this time of uncertainty, is to have our students reconnect. And the whole thing about Ike Kupuna is to look to our ancestors, to look to our elders for answers. Because sometimes I find that our younger students with social media, the internet, it's like they're getting false sense of security. And especially for us, my kids, whether they have Hawaiian blood or not, I'm like, if you're a keiki of this land, if you're keiki o ka aina, you know better. And before I send you off into the world, I need to make sure that you have a firm foundation. And so turning to our elders and knowing that a lot of the answers we're looking for in our lives, our kupuna already told us about it. And so I believe that this particular lecture came into play because there was a lot of things going on Facebook, on Instagram, and parents were contacting me. And I was like, okay, we're just going to nip this in the bud. Parents tend to turn to Kumu Hula when their children are floating away or feeling lost. And so it was my kuleana, my responsibility to kind of recenter them. And so I usually call in the big guns because my grandmother's not here. And I'm not a kupuna yet. I refuse. I don't want to cross that threshold yet. But I think it's really important, and it's like, don't try to make up your own answers and justify what you're doing in a Western mindset. It's like our kupuna already gave us a foundation. It's like, listen, and your life will be so much easier if you listen. And so again, talking about balance, but talking about the ha and the breath, knowing who we are as Hawaiʻi, that we are the breath, we are water, we are the air, all of the elements, right? That we are just in the name of our place. And again, if you just look to that, you'll find your balance. That's your four. I think we used that when we did Asia Pacific, was that we talked about the sacred ha, the four, right? Is like we have our four corners, we have our four directions, our four winds. The number four is very sacred to us. And so bringing all of the elements together, finding your balance, it was a really good lecture. And I had all of the parents, the families jump in online so that it's an extended learning, because it can't just be about the dance. Hula is not just about physical dance. It's about the total, your mind, your body, your spirit. And so nurturing that through this lecture series.
Cool. So let's take a look at this new piece
Okay.
that you're doing.
Okay.
So this time we're going to Oku Iluna because I'm going to show you guys the hula. And it's very ma'alahino. Very ma'alahino. Because the focus of the hula is actually the olelo o ke ia mele. That's important. Okay, let's start. Ola ika ha, ola ika vai, ola ika I, Hawaii, 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 Wakea kalani, Papa ka honua, no ka luna ko luna, no ka lalo ko lalo. Ho'ohoku, kalani ka wahine, aloha ke kalo, aloha ke kanaka, haloa ka koue, o ka pono no ia e, o ka pono o Hawaii nei. What I do is follow the olelo. And what our kupuna said in the olelo, the wisdom and the knowledge of the olelo, the pilina o ka olelo, to all things, the mana of the olelo, and the covenant of the language. And in the hula, pili ka olelo I ke kuhi o ka lima, that in the hula, the motions have to be connected to the words. So if you're listening, it says, Vakea kalani, up, Vakea kalani. Papa, the flat surface, kahonua. What is up, no ka luna ko luna. What is down, no ka lalo ko lalo. Ho'ohoku, the combination of Papa and Vakea. And from her was born Haloa ke kalo, then Haloa ke kanaka. And the breath comes, the same breath that was imparted, you see, and then the pono. And then you know, kapu lima. The pulima is about hard work, you see. Every aspect of hard work, you have to pulima. You cannot only want and take, you have to contribute to the kumuhana.
You know, I think that's a huge example for you as a kumuhula and the role you play as a kumuhula. It's not an easy role. I mean, you know,
It's
when
not.
people say, "Oh, I'm a kumuhula," I say to myself, "Really?" I mean, you know, something I have to think about it. But the role that, you know, it's not, you know, like someone, you know, one of my tutus once told me, it ain't glamorous, people.
No.
It's not a glamorous role. And you work, I mean, seeing that you bring this to your haumana is really important.
Yeah, it is. You know, I get that same comment, like, "Oh, you're a kumuhula, you get this and that," and I'm like, you know, I think if I were given a choice, I probably would have picked a 9-to-5 job. You know, Monday through Friday. It's like, because I also remember my grandmother telling me, you know, because there was no choice for me. I mean, there was a lot of rebellion on my part, because I didn't want this. I wanted a different life. I wanted the glamorous life. But she used to say, being a kumu hula can be very lonely, and it's very kaumaha. It's very heavy because you take in all of your students. And like we talked about, it's not something that, you just sign up for a class. I actually still very much pick my students. I let them come. I don't advertise them. Like, if you want to learn, you'll come find me. And then I'll let you know if you're a good fit. If you're not, let me help you find a good home. But those lessons, it was as important for me to include the families of my students, because I can't just be the only one teaching them this. It has to be our greater lahui, our community, our kaiaulu. And in this time, what kind of sparked it is, we talk a lot about entitlement, and I can see it in some of my students, where they think there's always an excuse, or my mom didn't do this, or my dad forgot. I'm like, no, they're not my students. You are, this is your kuleana. You want to be here, because if you don't want to be here, then you need to say something, because I'm not going to drag you to the water and force you to drink it. As a kumu hula, that's not my job. My job is to pass on the ike kupuna, what's been given to me, so that hopefully it enriches their lives. It's not just about physical dance. It's about developing the whole person, and hopefully developing responsible human beings. That is the biggest task. And that's where the kaumaha, the heaviness, comes in, I think, as kumu hula. Is that we nurture these seedlings until they are a strong part of our tree, that they can be their own branches and hopefully continue to ho'oulu, to grow and inspire others. That is our job. And I think the dance part is just a minuscule part of it.
Right.
And that's also the fun part, to watch them grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Man, I totally understand. My hair wouldn't be so white if I wasn't doing.
Mine is all underneath. I covered mine in the back.
Well, on the lighter side, we do have some really fabulous moments, and dances that we enjoy tremendously.
Totally.
And the next dance that you guys are going to do, Mailohilohi Maioi, is one of my favorites. I always knew this as midnight hula.
Yes.
I was told this was called midnight hula because Lady Shoning, Uncle K, Kauanoe Lake's mom, would get up and dance, and Auntie Mikey would tell us, everybody go home.
Right.
All the
children
kids would go home. Children leave. So it was called midnight hula. Oh, midnight hula starting, everybody go home.
Yeah.
And Tutu would get up. Lady Shoning would get up, Auntie Sissy, and do her thing. So
yes.
Take a look at this particular dance. Mailohilohi Maioi.
O he hawale oi kuʻui po kahi mea ho. O he no, o he no ka ui aloha. Aloko i hana e nei. O he hawale oi kuʻui po kahi mea ho. O he no, o he no ka ui aloha. Aloko i hana e nei. O ka hinua umea i aloha. O ko leola e ke aloha. Ka me mai au. Nā mea ka ua i a nei. Ka hinua umea i aloha. O ko leola e ke aloha. Ka me mai he o mo e pono I ka pō I ka hana nui a loko kahi a ka mana o e lau vili vili nei a o he o mo e pono I ka pō I ka hana nui a loko kahi a ka mana o e lau vili vili nei haina ia mai ka puana ka himea o he no o he no ka ui aloha a loko I hana e nei haina ia mai ka puana ka himea o he no o he no ka ui aloha a loko I hana e nei
Well, like I said, it's one of my favorite songs, and to watch people just dance it just brings back so much great ideas and memories. Thank you.
You're so welcome. That was a fun one. And that one, I call it my pandemic hula clip. So one of my students in Japan, they're still on lockdown and this has really taken a toll on them.
Oh, yeah.
And so just having them be able to do something together. And my student in Hawaii edited for my grandmother's birthday last year. We did a halal presentation. So
how cool is that?
Yeah.
We're running out of time a little bit. Do we have time to watch your last piece real quick for Peaceful World?
Sure.
So let's run to that one really quick before we run out of time. I want to show everybody your dance.
Okay. And this is Grandma's choreography.
Oh, okay, cool.
Listen to a voice and you hear a prayer. Listen to a heart and you find a soul. Listen to a sound and you hear a song. All this for a beautiful world. Let us lift the voice to offer a prayer. Let us soothe the heart and strengthen the soul. Let us blend the sounds into lovely songs. All this for a peaceful world. Olono I ka leo, e leo pule. Olono puai, I mele nani. Olono I ke kani, I lohe I I pui a he, ka honua nani. E ona leo I pule moha.
Wow, Maelia, thank you for sharing that one. That's really a special, special, special hula.
Yeah,
And,
that one is.
and like you said, it's perfect timing during this COVID time.
I think so. And I think that's what's so beautiful about hula, about dance, is that it just heals the heart um, in so many ways, and it touches people in so many ways that it helped us get through a really tough time, I think, for everybody. And so it was really great to be able to share that.
I think you shared with us so much about the heart, the soul of hula, who you are as a Kumu hula, and what you do. So I personally am very grateful for that. Thank you very much for all of that
Oh, thank
inspiration
you.
that you do. And like you said, sometimes as Kumu hulas, you're beating your head against the wall, and you need to hear that from a fellow Kumu hula. So thank you.
Mahalo. It helps. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Eric's back here, everybody. And we want to thank him and
Yes.
Tim for working diligently all these years to put this Asia Pacific Dance Festival together. We look forward to so many more of the events and sharing with other cultures, and mainly being able to enrich our own people here. So, Eric, I'm turning this over to you. Again, Maelia, thank you for allowing me to
Mahalo
share this
nui.
moment with you. And
Thank you.
Eric, all yours.
Thank you, Michael. And I have to thank Michael, you for helping us so much with the planning of so many of these wonderful festivals. Maelia, I especially enjoyed watching these dance videos from your students, around the
Oh,
world.
mahalo.
Such
Thank you.
a wonderful thing, and a silver lining in this pandemic moment.
Yes.
And mahalo to your Haumana, the amazing tech people who are able to
I
edit
know,
that
right?
together.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
And especially what you said, Maelia, resonated with me, how as a Kumu hula, you're teaching not just dance, but teaching the total person and teaching your students to be the best people that they can be out in the world. And we hear that so much from teachers around the world in the performing arts, because culture doesn't exist in a vacuum. This is so much a part of life and living. So thank you for sharing that. And so mahalo nui loa to Kumu Maelia and Kumu Michael for a wonderful talk story and showcase filled with beautiful insights into the art of hula. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Please note, on August 27th, our program will feature Paul Morales, who was artistic director of Ballet Philippines during their festival residency in 2015. We invite you to join us then. Mahalo again to our sponsors, the Hawaii State Foundation on Culture and the Arts, National Endowment for the Arts, and the Friends of the Asia Pacific Dance Festival. Thank you all for attending. Aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo
Aloha.
nui.
Mahalo.